Your team scores, and for the next 5 seconds, you stop behaving like a normal adult. You leap out of your seat, scream something that is technically not a word, and grab a stranger whose name you do not know. Around you, thousands of people rise, shout, clap, and throw their arms into the air at almost the same moment. From far enough away, the stadium no longer looks like thousands of individuals. It looks like one enormous animal, and somehow we consider this completely normal. Try the same behavior in a supermarket. Wear matching colors, stand beside the vegetables. Repeat the same sentence 20 times, and roar whenever someone places a melon in a basket. People will not call it team spirit. They will call security, but inside a stadium. The rules change. Strangers dress alike. They sing words passed down by people they have never met. They face another group. Wearing the wrong colors, they wait, sometimes for hours. For one moment powerful enough to make every body explode at once. And the strangest part is, humans were doing things like this long before football existed, gathering in special places, wearing group symbols, repeating sounds, moving together, waiting for a shared moment that temporarily turned many people into one group. Social animals also call, answer, and build choruses until a single voice becomes the sound of an entire side. So when 50,000 people roar after a goal, are they simply celebrating, or has the stadium activated? Something much older. Something closer to an ancient group ritual than most of us would ever admit. 2 hours before the match, the stadium is almost empty. One supporter has arrived early, very early. Early enough to hear individual pigeons. Making personal decisions, he finds his seat. Looks across thousands of empty chairs and tries the chant, just once. His voice crosses the stadium, hits the opposite stand, and returns to him with absolutely no support. He immediately sits down, checks his phone, and behaves like the sound came from another adult. Later, the seats fill. The same man stands. He makes the same sound, but this time, someone beside him answers, then 3 people behind him, then the entire section. Nothing about the chant has changed. It is still repetitive, still loud, still unlikely to improve through additional verses, but now it has become normal, expected, almost official. That is the first strange rule of crowd behavior. Alone, the man looks like he has lost control. Surrounded by people doing the same thing, he looks like he understands the tradition. The sound did not become meaningful because it became beautiful. It became meaningful because somebody accepted it. One person began, the group answered, and the answer transformed an awkward noise into something everyone recognized. A cheer does not only need a mouth, it needs witnesses. Because alone, it is just a man yelling. Once the crowd answers, it has rules. To understand why that matters, leave the stadium. Travel to the African grasslands. After dark, a group of lionesses is resting when a roar appears, somewhere beyond the darkness. They cannot see the stranger, they only have the sound. Researchers once tested what the lions did with that information. They placed speakers inside lion territory sometimes. The speakers played one unfamiliar lioness. Sometimes they played 3 lionesses roaring together. The recording was fake. The decision facing the lions was extremely real. When they heard one intruder, the defenders were more willing to approach. When they heard 3, they became cautious. They waited, grouped together, and treated the darkness as though it contained more bodies. The lions were not reviewing. The vocal performance they were counting, not perfectly but well enough to change whether moving forward looked brave or incredibly stupid. That is the hidden power of a chorus. Several voices are not simply one voice. With better speakers, they reveal a side. One roar says, "I am here." Several voices say, "We are here, and approaching us may require a revised plan." A football crowd is not defending an African territory usually, but one supporter can only reveal one excited supporter. When the entire stand answers, the opposing side hears numbers, attention, commitment. The group has become audible. Animals can do that with a natural chorus. Humans took the same basic trick and made the sound repeatable. We gave it a rhythm, a familiar pattern, and eventually, objects built specifically to make the sound travel. Inside a decorated cave in southern France, archaeologists recovered a large seashell. For decades it remained quiet. Inside a museum collection, it looked unusual, but not unusual enough to start shouting. Then researchers examined it again. The pointed end had been removed, the opening had been modified, and the shell appeared to have been prepared so a person could blow through it. A musician raised it, placed it against his mouth, and after roughly 18,000 years, the shell made sound again. Deep, rough, powerful enough to travel through the cave. We do not know what happened the last time it was played. There was no recording, no written program, no helpful sign reading. Ceremony begins at sunset. We cannot prove that a crowd answered it. And it was definitely not the first football trumpet. The clubs were still having serious administrative problems, but the shell gives us one surviving piece of a vanished scene. Humans had carried a sound-making object into a place covered with symbols. Someone had modified it deliberately. Someone had learned how to make it speak, and other people were probably meant to hear it. The voices disappeared, the event disappeared, even the reason disappeared, but the shell remained, waiting for another pair of lungs to wake it up. Animals form choruses. Humans build stages for them, a special place, a powerful sound, a group waiting nearby, and once those pieces come together, noise begins to feel like an event. Now place two people, thousands of years apart. The first leaves the ordinary sleeping area. Others are already moving toward a place used for something different. Someone carries an instrument. Someone wears markings that do not help with hunting, cooking, or staying warm. A sound begins. The people stop talking. Heads turn. Bodies gather closer. Now look at the modern supporter. He leaves home wearing a perfectly ordinary jacket. Near the stadium, his friend hands him a scarf. He puts it on. Then another supporter paints his face. He allows this. Despite being a 42-year-old accountant who normally dislikes attention, they enter through a gate. They move toward the same section. A drum begins. Someone raises a scarf. Thousands follow. Different century, different objects. Same strange transformation. Outside the special place, the behavior would be difficult to defend. The accountant does not paint his face. Before visiting the bank, he does not sing the same sentence. Through an entire meeting, he does not accuse another department of having no history. But inside the stadium, the scarf means something. The painted face means something. Even standing at the correct moment means something. Nobody needs to explain the rules. The people nearby demonstrate them. A late supporter reaches his seat. Carrying two drinks, the crowd suddenly stands. He has no idea why. But he stands too, because remaining seated now feels more suspicious than spilling both drinks. That is how the place changes him. The stadium does not merely contain strange behavior. It gives the behavior permission. Outside, it looks unhinged. Inside, it is tradition. The players have not entered the field. The ball has not moved. Nothing has been won. Nothing has been lost. And yet, outside the stadium, the crowd is already celebrating. Drums begin. Scarves rise. Flares burn. People chant the name of the club. Before the club has done anything, a procession moves through the street. Strangers who arrived separately begin walking at the same speed, in the same direction, repeating the same sounds. This creates a problem for the obvious explanation. If cheering is simply a reaction to excitement on the field, why is everyone doing it while the field is empty? Researchers following Brazilian supporters studied one of these pre-game processions. The supporters marched, sang, moved, and built emotional intensity together. Before reaching their seats, the main event was supposedly still ahead, but the group experience was already happening. The match had not created the crowd. The crowd was creating itself. A man arrives worried about work. Another has argued with his family. Someone else spent the morning promising not to become emotional. About 22 adults and a ball. Then the drums begin. Different mornings disappear into one direction, one pace, one color, one song. By kickoff, the supporters have already practiced. Being a group, football supplies the uncertainty. The ritual prepares the people who will feel it together. Then one moment on the field gives everything they have been building. Permission to explode. It is the 87th minute. The score is level. One supporter is eating. Another is explaining why the referee is corrupt. Using evidence visible only to him, a child is nearly asleep. The skeptical man nearby has spent the entire match protecting his dignity, arms folded, face neutral, emotionally unavailable. Then the ball enters the penalty area. The crowd leans forward. One pass, one touch, one shot, goal. The man holding food forgets the food exists. The sleeping child wakes, already celebrating, and the skeptical supporter is suddenly 3 rows away. Hugging a person called Martin, he does not know Martin. Martin does not know him. This information feels temporarily unnecessary. From far away, it looks like 50,000 people produced the same individual reaction, but nobody reacted alone. Every supporter could see thousands of other faces changing, other arms rising, other bodies leaving their seats. Researchers measuring people inside live sporting crowds have found that their bodies can become more synchronized than smaller groups watching remotely. The event is not only happening in front of them, it is happening between them. Then the chant starts. The skeptical supporter resists. His foot does not. It begins tapping. He looks down, as though the foot has bypassed management. Then one hand joins. 10 seconds later, he is louder than Martin. The crowd never convinced him. With a logical argument, it gave him a movement, already in progress, a rhythm already decided. A reaction easier to enter than to refuse. The goal creates the spark, but the bodies around him show the fire where to travel. Across the barrier, Another supporter is celebrating. He is roughly the same age. He also believes the referee has personally betrayed him. He also paid too much for something served in cardboard. He knows the songs, loves the game, and has reorganized his entire weekend around an event he cannot control. The two men have almost everything in common. Then you notice the scarves. Different colors, and this small textile disagreement has divided the universe. One man sees loyalty, the other sees poor judgment, possibly extending into basic morality when one side sings. The other side answers louder. When one section raises its scarves, the opposite section raises theirs. The chant no longer says only, "We are together." It says, "We are together." And you are over there. That is the second job of a group ritual. It does not merely bring people closer. It makes the border visible. A supporter removes his scarf and walks toward the wrong entrance. A steward stops him, not because the scarf is dangerous, because the meaning attached to it has placed him on the wrong side. The enemy is not always a completely different person. Sometimes the enemy is your mirror, wearing the incorrect fabric. Both sides sing, both sides complain, both sides believe. Their suffering is unique, but the colors simplify everything. This person is with us, that person is not, for 90 minutes. A scarf can turn a stranger into family, or turn an almost identical stranger into someone with a deeply suspicious opinion. About a corner kick, the cheer does not just express emotion, it tells everyone where we ends. When you entered the stadium, the team on the field already existed. The players had contracts, uniforms, training schedules, a manager who would eventually be blamed for something. They did not need you to become a team, but the people in the stands arrived separately. One came by train, one came with family, one came alone. Most had never met at the beginning. They were simply thousands of people sitting near one another. Then the first chant began. A stranger answered. Scarves rose. The other side became visible. The goal arrived. And suddenly, everyone began using the same word. We scored not. The highly paid professional athlete scored. We, the strangest word in the stadium, because you did not touch the ball. You were not selected, you may not survive, a gentle warm-up. But the ritual has moved the boundary. Their action now feels partly like your action. Their victory enters your body. Their defeat can ruin a perfectly serviceable weekend. The football team existed. Before the gates opened, the we in the stands had to be built. That is what the chants were doing. That is what the colors were doing. Not explaining the match, creating the people who could experience it. As one side, you thought you came to watch the team, but somewhere between the gate, the scarf and the first shared roar, the stadium made you part of it. The ball touches the net, you rise, your arms open, and before you choose any words, the sound leaves your body. It does not describe the goal. Everyone saw the goal. It does not simply say, I am happy. The sound reaches outward. Did you see that? Did you feel it? Are you still with me? For one brief moment. 50,000 strangers. Stop sounding like strangers. One person calls. The people beside him answer, then the row behind them, then the entire stadium, and the sound no longer belongs to any individual inside it, it belongs to the group. Football did not invent that ancient need, it gave it colors, seats, a scoreboard, and a socially acceptable place for adults to completely lose control. So the next time your team scores, and you find yourself roaring beside someone whose name you do not know, listen carefully. You are not only celebrating what happened on the field, you are asking the oldest question hidden inside every group chorus. Are you with me? And for a few seconds, the stadium answers with one enormous voice.